So there was a big march yesterday in Portland orchestrated by, I guess, the Proud Boys and Patriot Prayer. Although it seemed to be a mainly Proud Boys event, I think those folks just kind of intermingled together. And so I decided to watch the stream with Ford Fisher, and I expected things to get, pretty exciting. Sat through most of it. It wasn't as long as I thought it would be, which was nice. It was a pretty short stream, at least the main event. They walked all the way from some point in the city to a park on the water. I'm not familiar with the geography of Portland, so I don't know what the park was called. And things seemed to go pretty smoothly. You didn't see any Antifa people on Ford Fisher's stream at this point. There were just folks walking downtown. They were, saying their piece. They were, playing loud music. They were having fun and, walking along. And then when they got to the park, they said their piece. A couple of the leaders spoke. I think Joe Biggs and that Enrique guy. And they said, nothing offensive or anything, obviously, because the Proud Boys is a pretty mild group. They said, hey, we're here to have a little fun. And also, we just wasted a bunch of the city's money, haha, because we're only going to be here for like 10 minutes and then leave. So that was kind of their prank. They're like, hey, we're going to make a big show of this, act like we're going to have this big, massive rally, but we're only going to have a couple hundred people, and then we're going to be here for like 10 minutes. But then they make the city spend all this money on trying to secure everything, which kind of seems like a dick move, but I guess they have a right to be mad at the city for how the city has treated them in the past. Although I have to say, if I lived in Portland, I think I probably would have been pretty pissed at that, because even though I'm certainly not an Antifa type, and I'm sympathetic to the Proud Boys, even though I'm not exactly a big time Republican or anything, or an Alex Jones fan, and there were a lot of them there who had funny InfoWars shirts on. I generally think, despite that they're a pretty good group of guys. However, if you come into my town and you're not from my town, and you waste a bunch of my tax dollars for some 10-minute event just so that you can laugh and say, ha ha, we wasted the city's money, I'm going to be pretty pissed, because I don't get a choice in paying my taxes. I don't get a choice on how my mayor acts. I think it's really crappy of them to punish all the people who pay good money in taxes in Portland for the actions of a mayor that many people there probably didn't vote for. My favorite part of the event up until this point was Joe Biggs' hat. I couldn't read it very well because Ford's stream wasn't always in HD, and so I couldn't see it until it got real up close. But it was a dark, like forest green colored hat, but it was stylized like a Make America Great Again hat, and it said Make Something Again. So I saw Making Again, but I couldn't make out the other two words. And it said Make Frog Straight Again, and I absolutely died laughing on the stream watching that, because that's a great hat. I gotta own that. For those of you who don't know, that's goes back to an old Alex Jones meme of him not liking that the government puts chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay. You understand that? And it was one of my favorite Alex Jones memes for many years. And so I got to own that hat at some point. So at this point, after they had their little event by the water and they walked back to the end of their route, they declared victory and said, hey, this was a great success. Thanks to the Portland PD, they kept Antifa away from us. The event's over. Things went well. And let's go grab some beers. And so at that point, I turned the stream off because nothing happened. The event concluded peacefully. But little did I know, the Antifa folks were quite upset that they didn't get a chance to take any shots at any of these Proud Boys during their march. And they were very upset that the police, at least for the duration of the official event, kept them away. And they had a lot of pent-up rage. And apparently, folks, they just showed up to riot. And by damn, they were going to get to riot. And so all throughout the afternoon, we kept getting these short clips of Antifa folks, whole mobs of them, like 20 people attacking individual guys and backing them into a corner and trying to beat on them and stuff. And I didn't see anybody get too badly beat up. However, there was one older guy, like middle-aged guy, who got knocked out by the crowd, and then his wife or something tried to cover him and protect him, and they were taunting her, and it was really scary, because it looked like the mob was going to kill him. And that old guy was out cold on the floor, and was surrounded by a bunch of young folks. And of course, Antifa, unlike the Proud Boys, came armed. One thing that was interesting about the Proud Boy marches, they made sure to check everyone who was with the group and totally disarm them. Even flagpoles that were kind of heavy, they said, basically, we don't want to be accused of bringing any sort of weapons at all. So in case the Antifa folks attack, they want to make sure they look like the victims, which is a smart move, I think. That's actually like the opposite of what the Proud Boys was founded on, interestingly enough, because I remember one of the things that Gavin used to say was like, hey, we're tired of, conservatives just, trying to make it look like, they're the victim and not fighting back. We're going to fight back. Well, apparently, I guess the Proud Boys have come to the conclusion that, fighting back, at least with weapons, maybe with your fists, I mean, you can't blame somebody for that. You can't tell someone that they should take a punch in the face, but I guess at least they don't believe in bringing clubs or anything like that. Antifa does, however. They had pipes, they had, bear mace, they had, mild, like, thug-type stuff. There weren't any guns or anything, because, of course, we know, the left hates guns for some reason, at least the not-too-far left. The far leftists love guns, because, they want to start the revolution. But yeah, yesterday was the worst Antifa violence I've seen in a while. I mean, there was one instance where there was some Proud Boys who, took a couple of short buses into Portland. I guess, they kind of carpooled, and they were getting on their bus, and they got attacked by a mob, and the mob started punching out the windows, and then once they broke one of the windows, they sprayed, mace inside the open window, and they were just beating all over the vehicle. It was really like animalistic stuff. I mean, it's hard to believe that, those people just go home and, live a normal life. I can't imagine that those folks are like functioning human beings, because how do you do that? How do you have so much hate built up in your system that you can unleash on a Saturday and then go back to work on Monday? That doesn't seem like, any of those people were very healthy to me. And I get that there's a mob mentality, when people get in groups, they get aggressive like that, but I can't imagine that. They even started picking on a construction worker because I guess they thought he was a Proud Boy because he was a normal-looking man who wasn't in all black. Pretty much anyone who wasn't in all black, the Antifa folks considered to be a Proud Boy. Even the women. And there were women, with the group, which, really bothered me. I think I saw Jesse Kelly pointed it out first. It's like, if you're bringing your wife and kids to this event, that things have a potential of getting really bad. You're a really irresponsible parent or spouse if you invite your family to this. It's just not a family. And it's not like there were families walking around with the Proud Boys. There were a couple women, and there was one girl who was really young that they keep spreading a video of a guy and a young girl getting. They weren't really mauled by the mob, because the mob did, but they just kind of kept them on edge. There was a guy dressed as like a Spartan, and another girl, and it was really scary. And they kept grabbing them and stuff and roughing them up without actually bludgeoning them too hard. It was definitely a scary situation. There were multiple situations that I saw throughout the day with Antifa to where if I had been in the shoes of any of the victims there, of the accused Proud Boys, some of whom were just normal people walking through town that happened to not be wearing black, I would have feared for my life, certainly. It's a good thing that the Antifa folks didn't, try and rough up anyone who's carrying a gun or something, because, I mean, I don't carry a gun on me, but if I'm someone who did, that would definitely be a situation in which I would pull my gun and probably shoot somebody. If I'm getting attacked by an angry mob, you'd want to shoot at them to scare them off. At the very least, if not, actually shoot to kill, because they're trying to friggin' kill you. I mean, to me, that just shows the restraint of the Proud Boys, because, I mean, one, that these are guys who like to go out and get drunk and get into fights. For one thing, and two, I'm sure plenty of them own guns and have concealed carry licenses, so they could have brought guns and taken on some Antifa folks who, if they'd come at them if they wanted to, and that's pretty scary. I guess it's just the difference though between people who are raised around guns and those who aren't. You kind of have if you're someone who keeps guns in your house, you kind of develop a consciousness of that power to kill, and it really makes you temper yourself to make sure that you keep your cool at all times, because taking someone's life or endangering someone's life by seriously wounding them that's a very serious responsibility. So I guess that people just learn to control themselves as a result of that. And of course not all gun owners do, but as a general rule. And so since these Antifa folks were probably, raised in rich white households without any weapons or fear of violence or, getting beat up at school or anything or getting into fights, they don't really know how to control their violent instincts as much. This is a new thing for them. Violence is not their first language. So I have to say, yesterday was definitely a victory for the right. I think that the right played it perfectly. They were very peaceful. They did not fight back. They didn't really hit, they didn't even hit anybody. And there were a lot of cases where they would have been justifiable for them too. They definitely looked like victims. It looks like they were peaceful people coming to do their thing, and they got attacked by an angry mob. The left yesterday looks completely unhinged, and really it makes it look like that, they have irreconcilable differences with the right, that they really cannot compromise, that they cannot respect that anyone can have a different opinion than theirs. I mean, there was even infighting amongst the left yesterday. There was one guy who showed up who was an Antifa supporter but wasn't in black bloc, and he got screamed at in his face and, almost practically spit on. The guy probably was spitting because the Antifa guy was so angry at him, and he was accusing him of being a white supremacist and stuff, and he's like, no, man, I love socialism and stuff. It's cool. It's like, it was an absolute clown show. Because really, I mean, it's hard to take the Antifa folks seriously, because that if there was a serious fight, we've seen it before, if there was a serious fight between the Proud Boys and Antifa, Antifa's going to get walloped again. Yeah, so there's your headline. The left is violent and unhinged, and the right showed restraint. That's about all I have to say on the Portland matter. If you gained anything of value out of this video, I'd appreciate you clicking that like button and subscribing. And if you do subscribe, please do click the bell, because I do upload every day, and I'd hate to have you miss one. So I'll see you folks back here tomorrow.